let's walk through putting something completely together from scratch and being able to do that in such a way that it makes sense, and we'll do it one step at a time. Same basic thing that we did for this week, but with maybe a little more creativity on your part. The more you play with it, the more it's going to make sense. If you're looking for, I want to be able to do it that one right way, there's not. There's multiple right ways to do things. And you just got to follow the rules to do that. So let me start by snagging a piece of paper over here, because I'm going to start with the idea that I need to write out the matrix. Now, I told you I was going to do things in the key of C. Let's do one. I'll actually do one in the key of B flat for you today. So we know that we're in the key of B flat then. That's going to be the first thing that I know in my key signature. We're going to have a 1 chord major, 2 chord minor, 3 chord minor, 4 chord major, 5 chord major, 6 chord minor, 7 chord diminished. But Dr. Duncan, we're not using but for the chord. I know, but this is the way to write it out so that it makes sense. So you've got this going on. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. See how it goes. Makes perfectly good sense. Now, in the key of B flat, it's a flat key. There's a flat in its name. We need one more flat. So the key B flat has a B flat and an E flat. So we're going to go B, C, D, E flat, F, G, A. That gives me my whole bottom line. Gives me my whole bottom line. Now, going up, we're going to go B flat, D, F, because that's 1, 3, and 5. B flat, D, and F. So it's going to give me D, E, flat, F, G, A, B flat, C, and F, G, A, B flat, C, D, E flat. So now I know what my 1 chord is, what my 2 chord is, what my 4 chord is, what my 5 chord is. Now let's go over here to the page. So you've signed in to ballhighmusicfirstclassroom.com, and it pops up here. You go up to software, click on software, go to Note Flight, click on Note Flight. Note Flight opens up for you in another tab. And here's mine, so it's got the things that I've done in the past. I'm going to say Create. So I go up to the left and I find Create. I click on Create. And I get a deal that says, what do you want to do? Well, I feel like being exciting today, so I'm going to say, OK. Now that's got a piano score for me, and I don't really want the piano score. I want to do something more interesting today. Let's say I want to do something really interesting. I'm going to have a flute and an oboe and a bassoon and a cello, because that's a treble, treble, bass, bass for the soprano, alto, tenor, bass. So I'm going to go over here to the 3 little dots. See the three little lines here? That's the menu. I'm going to go to Score. From Score, I'm going to choose Parts. This pops up over here, and I'm going to say I want to add a part, and I want to look under the woodwinds because I want to add a flute. Okay, I'm going to have a flute now. Now flute pops up. Then I'm going to add a part, and I'm going to go back to woodwinds, and I'm going to add an oboe. And oboe pops up. Then I'm going to go to a part, I'm going to woodwinds, and I'm going to add bassoon. Good choice. And finally, I'm going to go to strings, bowed strings, and I'm going to add solo cello. Okay. Now I'm going to go back up here to piano, and I'm going to hit trash can. That's going to get rid of the piano. There we go. So now I've got flute, oboe, bassoon, and cello for my parts. I'm going to close that out. So over here now I see flute, oboe, bassoon, and violoncello. Makes sense so far, right? Let's go with 1, 4, 2, 5, 1 for our chord progression. So we're going to go the 1 chord, the 4 chord, the 2 chord, the 5 chord, back to the 1 chord. first place to worry about this, first place to do, is in the bass line. In this case, it's going to be the violoncello for the bass line. So I'm going to have, for my first note, the bass of the one chord is B flat. I'm going to go back up here and make that into a whole note. Oh, you're not hearing that because I have my headphones plugged in. Let me undo that. Then our 4 chord, I look over. Bass of my 4 chord is E flat, so I'm going to put it in E flat. 2 chord is a C. 5 chord is an F. Back to the 1 chord, which is a B flat. Ooh, and what I didn't change on here, and I should have, I didn't put in a key signature. So let me go over here. We're going to select everybody. I'm going to go key signature. The key signature of B flat, it actually has it here, is 2 flats. Now I've got a problem because I put those in and it thinks they're natural. So I went, oh, no, that's not what I wanted. So let's go back, let's take those out and start that over again. Now we'll do it right. So we've got a B flat, then we've got an F, an E flat, 4, not 5. 2 is C, 5 is F, 1 is B flat. And now when I play that, oops, let's go back and play that from the beginning. From the beginning. And that sounds fine. Now, I want to go with the first chord, not all the others, just with the first chord and fill it in. Now I need a B flat, a D, and an F. I like to give some space between things because it lets you move stuff around easier. So I'm going to skip the D. I could put a D there, but I'm going to go up to the F. In the tenor line, I'm going to put an F. I'm going to also make that a whole note. I like some space. The next note would be a B flat, so I'm going to put a D. That skips one for me. And then up here in the flute, I'm going to put my B flat. So all together I get. Now notice, we've got jumps in the bass, and that's perfectly fine. As long as you're putting the root in the bass, you're not having any problems at all. That's going just fine. I've got all 4 tones, soprano, alto, tenor, bass. They're not just BDF. I didn't just run up here and run BDF. Notice each line has its own note. So I have the soprano line, the alto line, the tenor line, and of course the bass line. Now we're going to go sideways. And in doing this, as we go sideways with each line, we want to make them as smooth as possible. So I want to go either holding the same note or one step away. No jumps, no jumps. Smooth motion. So the 1 chord is B flat, D, and F. And the 4 chord is E flat, G, and B flat. My B flat is in common. So I'm just going to put a B flat there. That's the closest thing you can do, is to stay on the same note. From D, my closest note is E flat. Make that a whole note. From F, my closest note is G. Let me put the G in there. Whoops, that's an F. I'm going to go up, make it a G. You don't just stick notes in. You want the notes to follow the pattern that's here on this as going as close as you can. So the F is closest to the G, the D is closest to the E flat, the B flat is the same as the B flat. And the bass line is already written and is the root of the chord. Okay, now we've got the 4 chord going to the 2 chord. And the 2 chord and the 4 chord have 2 notes in common. The G is in common and the E flat's in common. So I'm going to look for those first. I'm going to say, oh, here's my G. I'm just going to put a G right there. Here's my E flat. I'm going to put an E flat right there. So those are exactly the same notes. Now my B flat in the 4 chord, it's going to go to C in my 2 chord. So, okay. So my B flat's going to go to a C. Got that written out. Let's hear what that sounds like so far. Not bad so far. Okay, now I've got my 2 chord is going to go to my 5 chord. So I look at my 2 chord and my 5 chord. They have a C in common. Where is my C? Oh, my C's up here. So I'm going to put my C, oops, let me go back to edit. Put my C up here. Now, is it a really exciting soprano line so far? No, not at all. We'll get to that in a moment. E. Wow, closest thing it's going to go to is the F in the 5 chord. Make that a whole note. G. Closest thing it can go to would be the A. Now, if you had done these in a different order in the first one, if we'd started on a D here in the bassoon, then it would go to the E flat, and the F. So that would keep us nice and smooth still, but they would not necessarily be in the same place. And finally, getting back to the end here, well, F, A, C. A is definitely going to want to go to the B flat. Why do I say that? Because A is the leading tone. It's a half a step away from the B flat, and it's the strongest sound that we have. So that A wants to go to the B flat. F is the same note, so I can leave the F right where it was. And C can either go to D or down to B flat. Well, I don't have a D, so it makes sense to put the D up here. And now I have all 4 tones for all 5 measures. Let's see what that sounds like. Whoops. That's what I did. And that sounds just fine. Is it exciting? No, it's not terribly exciting. But everything goes where it's expected to go. Everything goes in a smooth manner. B flat to C, C to D, that's all by stepwise or the same motion. D to E flat to F, all stepwise are the same. F to G to A to B, all stepwise are the same. And the bass is all exactly the roots. The root of the 1 chord, the root of the 4 chord, the root of the 2 chord, the root of the 5 chord, and the root of the 1 chord again. Okay, now you're at this point. You're about halfway done. Now we want to have some sort of a melody going on in the upper lines. And the easiest way to do that is to add chord tones, which are different chord tones. You can switch between chord tones, and non-harmonic tones. Try to keep them even. No big jumps, no craziness. The only jumps allowed are for the appoggiaturas. But let's go and change our first note here to a quarter note. Okay, now I've got a B flat that I can play with. Let's go up to a C. That sounds just fine. Let's see, B, D, F, I can go up to a D. That's a chord tone now. So now I have a passing tone. 1, a B flat, C, D, going up in the passing tone. And let me just bring it back down again, and I'll have another passing tone coming down here. Got an upper passing tone and a lower passing tone. Ooh, and the flute is not nearly as loud as that oboe is, so I'm going to come in here and continue this on for a minute. But I'm going to remember, that's really kind of hard to hear. Maybe flute wasn't the best choice. Maybe I should have put oboe as the loudest and put it on the top. That's possible. So we go back to edit here. Give me just a moment. Let me go down here to dynamics. Use the expression tool. Let's make that a forte. Let's make the oboe a mezzo piano. Whoops. Oh, it's only giving that for everybody. That's not what I wanted exactly. Let's go back down to dynamics, expression tool. Now let's make the oboe mezzo piano, MP. Let's see if that doesn't help some. Oh, that was a big help. Let me go down here, back to edit. I'm going to edit the bassoon to do the same thing. I'm going to go to the bassoon note, and I'm going to tell it, let's go to dynamics, expression tool, mezzo piano, that's MP. And we're going to take the same thing and do that for the cello as well. Dynamics, expression, MP. Now that brings all of those down and brings the flute up a little bit, so I'll be able to hear the flute. Much better. Now I can hear the la da dee da da in the flute. First measure sounds fine. Second measure goes back to being boring. How about this? Let's go back to edit. Let's take this note, make it a quarter note. Go to a C, go to a D, go to an E. Now, I've gone B flat, C, D, E. Now, what's my chord here? This is the 4 chord, E flat, G, and B. So my E flat at the end is a chord tone. My B flat at the beginning is a chord tone. These two are non-chord tones in the middle, so they are both passing tones. So it's going to pass 1, 2, 3, 2, 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 2. And that's not going to be a bad sound at all. Let's go back and hear that. Now, so far, all I've used has been passing tones. Now, I tend to like passing tones. They work really well for me. But let's use something other than the passing tone this time. Okay, we're on a C, and our chord is actually C, E flat, and G. So let's do something that doesn't use just passing tones this time. So C, E, and G would be my chords. Let me go all the way up here to the F. Come down to the E. Oh, and I can't resist one more passing tone. So here I have a skip followed by a step, which makes this one an appoggiatura. And then I've got passing tones again. Okay, passing tones, I like them. They work really well. Okay, here's one we haven't used. Let's use some changing tones. Oh, look, that scooted it down and said there's too much music there. We're going to make you another line. Not a problem. So let's start with the C, go to the D, down to a B, back up to the C. So I'm starting and ending on a C, but I've got the note above and the note below that, which makes that a set of changing tones. And then we're going to end on the D again here. Let's see what that sounds like. And that works pretty nice. The only thing I really don't like about it right now is that everything is a quarter note. Quarter, 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 quarter. And I can change that if I'd like to by going back and making some of them faster and some of them slower. Here's a really easy place to do that. Let's make that an eighth note. These are those two. Go away. No, 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 no. Made the wrong one go away. Make that one an eighth note. There's some days okay, now we're going to have half note, eighth, eighth, quarter note. And that's just going to give it a little different feeling time-wise. And that's not bad. That's not a bad sound at all. It's possible to put passing tones and non-harmonic tones also down here in the other lines. But don't do too many of them. Don't make them overly complicated, and never make them dissonant. So you don't want any seconds together, and you don't want any major sevenths. Other things are permissible, but those are just not good sounds for us. Let me actually give us one right here, just to give a little motion when there's not motion there. I'll start out just going to take this G that's here in the bassoon and make it a quarter note. Then I'm going to give it an F, and then I'm going to go back to the G as a half note. And that's just going to give us a little neighboring tone in the tenor line. And some people like to do a lot more than that. This would be fine. It follows all of the rules. All of the non-harmonic tones are explainable. All of the chord tones are in the right place, and everything is smooth motion. So I hope that makes sense for you. Now, some of you will say, Dr. Duncan, wait a minute. There's that extra measure at the end. Okay, click on that extra measure, go to the measure tool, and go to delete measure. Now click on the measure you want first, because if you clicked on this measure, it'll delete that measure. You don't want to do that. And now I'm back to where I've got all 5 of my lines on this one first score, and they're going to sound just fine. And that'll work.